We'll stay in national parks right now, right? Because I think this is interesting. A new shadow cabinet position the whole shadow cabinet was announced by the new leader of the opposition, Brad Batten, new leader of the Liberal Party, reshuffle of a front bench. Not much is new in that, but interestingly, there was a new portfolio in there, and it was right down towards the bottom, and I think it could be a window into one of the key battles for the next election, and it's about public spaces. It's about public land. It's about how we use them and who gets a say in how we use them. Melinda Bathe is the Nationals MP, going to be the Shadow Minister for Public Land Management. That is national parks. That's pests in those areas. That's fire in those areas. It's who can do what and how they are managed. Melinda Bathe can join you now. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Warwick, and good afternoon to your listeners.
A day in the job. What does a Shadow Minister for Public Land Management look after?
It's a wonderful day in the job, and yes, indeed, very grateful to have the opportunity to work with my colleagues for this and for the wider Victorians. So it actually encompasses all land-related aspects that were previously within the environment portfolio. So it includes Crown land, national parks, as you've said, state forests, FFMV, fuel reduction burns, flora and fauna management on Crown land. So
that's a lot. That's a lot of Victoria.
Teased apart the environment portfolio, and yes, it's a huge and complex set of issues that I'm going to relish getting my teeth into. But really, Warwick, coming up 10 years in this role, and because of the nature of some of the work that I've done, I've been sort of doing this in the background, out of shadow cabinet, and in my communities, and in working with people and issues over that time. So I'm really going to relish the opportunity to serve the people and come up with really good policies that serve humans and the environment.
Why is it important to have a public land management portfolio as well as an environment portfolio? Doesn't the Environment Minister already look after this?
Well, it did in the past, and it does in the Allen government. But the Liberals and the Nationals, and thank you to Brad Batten and my leader, Danny O'Brien, for coming up with this great combination. We've seen the neglect, we've seen the degradation of our public land, and we've seen pests and weeds proliferate. We've seen fuel loads build up to alarming levels, and you go and talk to anybody, east of where Melbourne, north of Melbourne, and we've seen west of Melbourne with the Grampians, and they're really concerned about the lack of preparedness for out-of-control bushfires.
So that's a main focus for you, is preparation for bushfire?
Look, I think there are multiple, to be honest, and as you've just said, it's a big portfolio. Active land management. What we've seen, certainly under this government, is that neglect seems to be the operation. We've seen the idea that you can potentially lock up more national parks, keep people out of them in traditional pursuits, and call that conservation is not something that I want to work with. But fuel reduction, that's part of the ecology and supporting healthy forests. And at the moment we've got a lot of fuel load, and we're up to 5 years, Warwick, of the anniversary of Black Summer fires, and our current government is still not taking seriously that mitigation. You cannot stop bushfires. Bushfires will occur, out of control wildfires will occur, but it's how to better protect both the towns, but also the actual environment, the landscape, flora and fauna. Burning up 1.8 million hectares is not protecting the environment.
And just on that too, on national parks and how they're managed, this has been a major debate for the Allen and the Andrews government, because they've been under a lot of pressure, particularly from the Greens, but also there's been examinations of their own to extend national parks and create new national parks in this state. This is Shadow Minister for Public Land Management. Now, this is going to be an area that you will be called upon a lot. Do you know if if your side of politics supports that move for more national parks, or are you against that?
I think it's very safe to say that our side of politics, the Liberals and Nationals, do not support the locking up of land. And by that, I mean keeping people out, turning public forests into national parks. What we want to see is the better management of all of our forest estates, including national parks. What is it about changing the terminology, changing the land tenure to say, right, good on us, this Labor government, we're now going to protect species? That's not going to be necessarily the case at all, and we would oppose that. The other thing is, Warwick, in terms of the scorecard, the government's not checking whether it's actually protecting vulnerable species. Where's its scorecard? And therefore, that locking up is not going to protect any better. We need people in the environment. We certainly need to reduce weeds and pests. We need to reduce that fuel load. But we need those traditional pursuits to be properly, respectfully engaged with by our public.
Would you support the return of native timber harvesting in state or national parks?
It's an interesting one, and certainly if you've ever wandered past my Hansard, you would have seen that certainly I've spoken very widely in support of the native timber industry. The Nationals and the Liberals always fought against the closure by Labor, the sort of desecration of it. Mills have closed, machinery's been sold off.
Now.
Contractors have sold their equipment. Some may have migrated to DECA and are waiting to actually do good work in that space. But you can't just flick on a switch and restart the industry. I'll certainly be working closely with my colleague Emma Keeley, the Shadow Minister for Ag, relevant stakeholders, industry, forest experts over the next 2 years to develop a policy going on to 2026.
Parks Victoria is under review at the moment. There's claims it's underfunded. There's other claims it needs to be reformed. What would you do with Parks Victoria, just quickly?
Yeah, the reality is when something's going wrong in the Labor Party, they conduct a review and hope that there's something going to come out of it. We've seen cuts to the budget. We've seen cuts to frontline actions. We need more people on the ground and we need more people out in the environment doing that good work. And we've seen the dilapidation of many of the loved infrastructure assets and not returning after fires. So I certainly am going to, again, work on that wholesale change of what does it look like moving forward.
Melinda Bathe, we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us on the program
Thanks
today.
for your interest and thanks for listening.
That is the new Shadow Minister for Public Land Management in Victoria, Nationals member for Eastern Victoria. Do you think that's paving the way for a bigger debate around national parks, how they're used, what can be done in them, how many we have? I feel like that's significant. That's a new portfolio. That says something about what we will be debating by 2026 when the Victorian election rolls around. Let's go to the roads. Dan Velling will have the details on